Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Good morning.
Now we are beginning the conversation between Manu and Kardama. Let us take shelter of this bright sun of Srimad Bhagavatam in this auspicious month of Purushottam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravaktarinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. It seemed to Kardama that 10,000 suns had descended to earth. He shielded his eyes, speaking occasionally to discern the source of the brilliance. As his eyes became accustomed to the light, the sage saw an effulgent person wearing a garland of white lotuses and water lilies. He was clad in spotless yellow silk, and his face resembled a lotus flower fringed with slick dark locks of curly hair. His head was adorned with a crown and earrings. In 3 of his hands he held a conch, disc, and a mace, and in the 4th a white lily. He glanced about in a happy, smiling mood, captivating Kardama's heart. The sage's bodily hair rose as a surge of ecstasy surged through him. The person before him exactly matched the descriptions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead he had read in the Vedas. Kardama gazed in awe. Was this Vishnu himself, or one of his associates? Examining him, he saw 3 golden streaks found only on the Lord's chest, and Vishnu's famous Kaustubha gem suspended from his neck. Then he saw that he was standing on the shoulders of Garuda, the Supreme Lord's eagle carrier. This was surely Vishnu. Realizing the Lord himself had come, Kardama felt profoundly fulfilled. This was the moment he had strived for all these long years. He fell prostrate, his head touching the ground and his arms outstretched. His heart overflowing with love, he rose to his knees and with folded hands offered prayers. My dear Lord, my sight has become perfect by seeing you. Great yogis meditate for many lifetimes in the hope of such a vision. By worshipping your lotus feet, one can cross the ocean of material suffering. Only the deluded worship you to obtain trivial and momentary sense pleasures, which can be had even by persons rotting in hell. Yet you kindly bestow your mercy even on such fools. The sage hesitated. He had worshipped Vishnu, hoping for a suitable wife. How could he ask such a trifling, mundane boon from the Supreme Lord? Like a loving father, Vishnu smiled encouragingly. He knew Kardama wanted to marry so that he could execute his service of populating the universe with pious progeny. His head lowered. Kardama said, although I know nothing material should be asked of you, I nevertheless desire to marry a girl of like disposition. To satisfy my lust, I seek your shelter. like a desire tree or the source of everything. Vishnu said, "My dear devotee, since you've now seen me, why do you not ask for liberation?" Kardama replied, "My lord, I'm not ready for liberation as I still have unsatisfied material desires. Religious principles are established by you so that conditioned souls who have such longings may fulfill them according to Vedic rules. That will help us become eligible for liberation. Like a bull bound through the nose with a rope, I'm bound by your instructions concerning material life." Vishnu's eyes twinkled. "Since it is proper to follow my instructions for sense enjoyment, why did you earlier criticize those who asked me for that?" Kardama hesitated. It seemed the Lord was testing him. After a few moments' thought, he said, "Whether one follows religious principles or neglects them, if his only goal in life is sense gratification, he is no better than an animal. He will simply suffer in material existence. He will sit. Your devotees therefore seek your protection by drinking the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities in discussions with one another. This frees one from sensual desires." Vishnu smilingly shed tears of affection for Kardama. Let's pause there. This point is very relevant. Why Kardama is not asking for liberation? Because he's aware of his actual position. He knows he's not ready for liberation. He has other duties and he has other desires. And also, this is interesting here. This verse connects with akama sarvakamo va moksha kama udharadi. So, Devrena Bhakti Yogena. So this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam says whether we are filled with material desires or we have desire for liberation, whatever it is, if we approach the Supreme Lord as our only shelter and perform bhakti to the best of our capacity, then we progress. So this is another proof here. It's good to be asked at the same time. He's asking the shelter of the Lord. So there's a very thin line between running after material things and approaching the Lord for certain material securities or certain material needs. But we approach him as a child approaches the father. Who else will go to, right? We go to the father. So we go to Krishna. We don't go to other demigods. We don't go and get help from anybody. We don't crawl before anyone else because we belong to the Lord. So we approach the Lord no matter what desires and what needs we have. We don't go anywhere else. We don't stray. We stick to taking shelter of Krishna. Whatever purpose, material purpose, spiritual purpose, doesn't matter. So that's more important than, oh, I'm not going to ask anything from Vishnu, anything material, but then we go and ask some other demigod or something. Mm-hmm. And here Kardama is clarifying when Vishnu asks, why did you criticize those people who ask for material things? So then he's clarifying that whether somebody is following religious principles or not, but if his only goal is sense gratification, then he's no better than an animal. So the problem is not having material desires. The problem is having only material desires and not performing devotional service, and to consider that sense gratification is the purpose of life. That is the problem. When we know that, I'm not this material body, I'm a spirit soul, I have to progress in the spiritual path. And once in a while, we have some material desires. We can approach the Lord and say, please, Krishna, take this away from me. Or if it's not sinful, then please fulfill this desire for me so that I can focus on my Krishna consciousness. So there's nothing wrong with that. Beautiful section, beautiful, honest conversations. Would you like to continue reading, Mataji?
Yes, I did. 1 minute. Kardama added, time is like a great wheel, which has the impersonal Brahm as its axle, the 13 lunar months as spokes, 360 days and nights as joints, 6 seasons as the rim, unlimited seconds for edges, and 3 groups of 4 months as the nave. The wheel's resolution cuts short the creation's lifespan. However, despite its tremendous velocity, time cannot destroy your devotees' duration of life, for they always discuss your glories. Tears welled in Kadama's eyes as he meditated on Vishnu's greatness. In a choked voice, he said, everything is executed by you alone. Although you are one, you have various energies through which you create, maintain, and wind up the material creation. Kadama sighted in a spider in nearby shrubberies weaving its web. He said, the spider creates a web with its own saliva, and yet it remains separate from the web. Similarly, you create the gods by your material energies, which are controlled by your spiritual potency. At the time of annihilation, you wind everything back up. Thinking again by his desire for a wife, the sage said, my lord, I know it is not your wish to implicate your devotee in material life. You manifest the material creation because we ignorant souls want material enjoyment. Since such yearning exists in my mind, if it is not satisfied, I will remain disappointed and frustrated. Therefore, now you have appeared before me in your eternal form, adorned with a splendid wreath of tulasi leaves. Kindly bestow your causeless mercy on me. After fulfilling my desire, please rescue me from material entanglement. Lord, I repeatedly offer my respectful obeisance unto your lotus feet, which alone can fulfill all desires. By your energy, you have expanded these material worlds to give all living entities an opportunity to simultaneously satisfy their desires and realize you. Thus, we can become detached from material happiness. Kadamba had his head. His wish to marry and have children was hardly an elevated desire. It was foolish to want anything but to serve Krishna. But at the same time, he did not want to be pretentious renunciant. Better to dovetail his desire in Krishna's service and increase the world's population. Standing on Garuda, Vishnu shone splendidly. His eyebrows moved gracefully as he showed affection on the sage. He replied with words as sweet as nectar. As the super soul in your heart, I already knew your desire. It is my nature to satisfy my sincere devotees who worship me properly with body and mind. If their desires are not detrimental to their devotional service, thus I have already made all arrangements. Kadama looked in surprise. Tears of love glistened in Vishnu's lotus-petal eyes. My dear sage Kadama, you are an exemplar for all living entities. Know you're certain that those who, like you, worship me with their body, mind, and words always achieve success, even if they desire material boons. Kadama dropped to his knees, overwhelmed with gratitude. Smiling benevolently, Vishnu continued, Brahma's son, Emperor Swambhuva Manu, is famous for his good qualities. Living in Brahmavarta, he rules the earth with its 7 oceans. The day after tomorrow, that celebrated emperor, who is expert in religious activities, will come here with his queen Shatrupa. He has a beautiful black-eyed daughter of manageable age. Of his character and good qualities, she is seeking a worthy husband. My dear sir, you are exactly suitable for her, and her parents will deliver her as your wife. That princess is just the type for whom you have long been hankering. She will soon be yours and will serve you to your heart's content. She will bear you 9 daughters, in whom the sages will duly beget more progeny. Kadama felt a pang of anxiety. Having obtained such a wife, would he ever become detached? Understanding his heart, Vishnu said, to sanctify your activities, engage the results of your work in my service. By following this instruction, your heart will become fully cleansed and you will finally attain my personal association. Kadama's brow creased. How should he offer the fruits of his work to the Lord? Vishnu said, while you are in household life, act compassionately to all living entities by giving food, clothing, and wealth. Also teach transcendental knowledge to your friends, family members, and neighbors. You will thus attain self realization. Later, you can accept sannyasa and travel widely from home to home, enlightening others. Teach them how to take shelter of me. Convince them I will always protect them and thereby make them fearless. By so doing, you will see yourself and all existence in me and me in you. Kadama carefully considered Vishnu's instruction. What did it mean to attain self realization? From within his heart, the Lord gave him understanding. Ignorance means to think I am independent of Krishna and all that I possess is meant for my enjoyment. Self realization means to realize that I and everything I own, including all one's relations, are Krishna's. Therefore, everything should be engaged in his service. When the householder shows compassion to others, he uses his God given opulence in a way which pleases Krishna, who awards him transcendental realization. Thus, by acting in knowledge, one realizes that knowledge. Kadama pondered further. What did Vishnu mean by saying, you will see yourself and all your existence in me and me in you? Slowly the answer dawned on him. There is no difference between Vishnu's interest, that is of universe, and of Kadama's himself. By satisfying Vishnu, one automatically satisfies the whole creation and oneself. The Lord wants every living being to always think of Him, be His devotee, and worship Him. By acting as Vishnu desires and teaching others to do likewise, one receives His blessings. Vishnu smiled benevolently. Here also some more blissful news. First, your wife Devahuti will give birth to 9 daughters. Then I shall become your son. I shall compose the Tattva Samhita, an exposition of Sankhya philosophy, which will instruct to my mother Devahuti. The moon cast faint shadows around where Maitreya and Vidura sat. Crickets sounded in the long grass. A pair of hyenas emerged from the forest, their red eyes shining in the night, only to retreat on seeing the fire. Maitreya continued. After telling Kardama he would appear as his son, Vishnu left the sage by Lake Bindu Sarovara, which was surrounded by the river Saraswati. Vidura asked, how could Kardama directly see Vishnu? The scriptures say the Lord is Adhokshaja, one who is never perceived by material senses.
Okay, we'll pause there for today and we'll
Okay.
meditate on this point how Kardama was very honest and he expressed his mind. He knew he was not ready for liberation. He also knew that he had a duty to perform to populate the universe for which actually he was even born.
Mm.
And then there is this whole question: how can somebody see the Lord if somebody has material desires?
Mm.
So until tomorrow, we can actually look into our own hearts and see what are our motivations, what are our intentions, and how much of it is material. And we can make prayers to offer all these material desires to Krishna to handle it, to take care of it, either remove it completely, or if it's as he said, if it's beneficial for us and it's not obstructing our bhakti, he fulfills it. And we've seen it. If we desire whatever it is, material wealth or something, and it's not bad for us, Krishna gives us. If we desire relationship and it's not bad for us, he gives it. So Krishna is not like a punishing father as we sometimes think. Maybe it's a kind of some Christian thinking that God will punish you, and God is not just waiting there to see what rule you're not following and let me punish this soul. He's a loving father.
But we
He
have to offer the fruits of our own actions to Him.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should like the problem we are in this material world is because we separated ourselves from him, right? We wanted to enjoy separately from him. So the problem is not that we want to be happy. That is okay, but we should put Krishna in the center. It's okay to have material needs, but Krishna in the center. So as long as Krishna is in the center, we are safe. But then the minute we make sense gratification our goal of life, Krishna will provide it to everyone, even non-devotees, even animals, right? Ants also get food, elephants get food. So Krishna is always providing for everyone. But are we in Krishna connection? Are we connected? And as you said, offering our results to Krishna and to not to try to enjoy separately and think this is mine, this is me, but to be grateful and say, Krishna, this is yours. My family belong. Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually sings Kamala Dhapajala because the life is like um, a drop of water on a lotus leaf. Any time it can finish. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings that Idana Yauvana Putra Parichana Etaki Ache Parati Tire. Means all these things, my wealth, my youth, my children, my family, it all belongs to you, my dear. That is the right attitude. The house, it's not bad to have a good house, but are we engaging that house in the service of Krishna? It's not good to have a good kitchen, right? But are we cooking for Krishna? Are we cooking for the pleasure of the Lord? Are we just thinking of our own belly and then using Krishna like a ATM machine to make it prasadam, right? It's a matter of consciousness. Are we thinking of pleasing Krishna, or are we thinking of pleasing ourselves? It's a practice. It's a gradual practice. Okay. So see you tomorrow. Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay.